was tweeting about this. It was a rock fight. It looked like a brawl at times. It got very physical. The whistles started flying in the second half. But welcome to Hogville YouTube Live. We're at hogville.net. Everything's free when you go to the website. Look at the content. Obviously, we're doing the YouTube lives now after games, pre-game, so we're really ramping up the coverage. And what a night for Razorback fans. The ups and downs. Arkansas gets off to a slow start. Creighton builds a 12-point first half lead. The Razorbacks fight back. A 6-0 run I thought was huge to end the half, to cut that lead in half. Then I thought Arkansas got a little tougher defensively. Not that Creighton shot any worse, but Arkansas started forcing more turnovers, and that was where Arkansas started turning the tide. Arkansas was dominant in so many different phases of the game, and what this really came down to was a free throw game. I thought when Arkansas was making runs and went from not having a lead to finally getting over that hump, and then there were 10 lead changes, a lot of what kept Creighton in it for a while were foul calls. You had a flagrant one called on Devo, 2 of 2 free throws there. You had a technical foul on Arkansas's bench. We got to find out who that was on. I don't know that was ever clarified, but that ended up a 2 of 2 free throw trip for Creighton, and they kind of hung in there. Then they got their offense going a little bit again, got some easy scores, a 7-0 run to go up by 6. Arkansas fights back. You see Ricky Council. You see Anthony Black. Trevon Brazile gets a lob dunk to end the first half in that run that got Arkansas within 6. That was his first basket in Hawaii, and he fought out in that second half. He ends up with, 17 points, 5 rebounds, 3 blocks. He was a big part of what Arkansas was doing. I thought Devo Davis, Jordan Walsh made some plays. The Mitchell twins, coming in and out, didn't have their best night, but there was a big offensive rebound at the end of that first half by Mikel that helped Arkansas on that little mini run to get that lead down and get that game manageable. I thought that was huge, and obviously, when you look at just the daggers that both teams were throwing at different times in this game, that last 3 by Anthony Black where he double clutched, thought he might have gotten fouled on that. If he'd have gotten a free throw, he possibly could have tied the game in just over 2 seconds. But who saw this from Anthony Black? Look at the work this guy's doing offensively. I almost last night, I didn't want to say it, I thought maybe that was an anomaly. Certainly he has talent. But to do it in back-to-back nights, nobody saw this coming. Ricky Council's proven he's more than just a slasher. His mid-range game, I go back to the pro day or in early October when a scout called me, NBA scout, after the game and said, Ricky Council was knocking down every mid-range jumper with guys hanging all over him in his face. We saw that tonight. So you see without Nick Smith Jr., a lot of question marks. Guys stepped up, and you just have to wonder if Trevon Brazile had been on his game for 40 minutes tonight, if Arkansas doesn't win this game with a 6 to 10 point margin. I know that's the what if, coulda, woulda, shoulda. But this was a tough loss, but it's a good loss too, because it's a top 10 matchup. Arkansas has not been involved in 2 teams being both ranked in the top 10. You got to go back to 95 with Kentucky on Super Bowl Sunday. Scotty Thurman hits a big shot. Arkansas wins that. This is a huge matchup. Call if he was a Creighton jersey on. Look, coming into this game, Nembhard, who had a big game, a lot of that at the free throw line, but he's a very good player, smart, savvy ball handler, creates for himself and others using hesitation and quickness, knocked down some early threes. But, he had coming in, I think, 29 or 30 assists, only 4 turnovers. And I tweeted this is going to sound like sour grapes, but the guy half palms the ball every time he dribbles. 2 of his first 3 threes were set up by him palming the ball and creating space. They don't call that on him. It sounds like sour grapes. I'm not an official. There's no whistle here. But I did think it was a little bit interesting there. But what a game. 2 incredible teams. I think these are both, when you look at them, the makings of Final Four type rosters. I'm not sure about Creighton's bench. I know they've got some talent. Their bench didn't score in this whole tournament until later in the game. It was a big 3. But Arkansas's bench, really, when you look at Brazile coming off of it, it's a little bit of a lie. He's really a starter who comes off the bench, and finally he thought out in this event. But what a game. And I think, when I'm looking at the mistakes for Arkansas, I think a big part of that is all those extra free throws, those 4, and then Creighton gets possession after that on the technical and the flagrant one. There was still plenty of time left. Arkansas was right there. I'm not going to say that's why Arkansas lost, but I do think the difference here, Arkansas was dominant points off turnovers, 21-3. Arkansas was 15-5 advantage in second chance points. Arkansas is usually dominant in points in the paint. That was even. That's probably the one blue collar area that Creighton hung in there. But it wasn't as much about Creighton's physicality as it was just smart, savvy plays when not breaking Arkansas's defense down. Arkansas had held all of its opponents below 60 points. Creighton goes for 90. They shoot the ball well throughout. But Arkansas's defense had its moments in creating turnovers. I thought that's what really helped the Hogs in the second half when the Hogs started limiting their own giveaways. That's been a problem. So that was a positive. Arkansas, 2 games in a row now, gets to 8 of 20 from three. Against Louisville, they finished 8 of 22, but they were at 8 of 20. That's 40%. They got there again. 0 for 5 in the first half, and they needed that big second half with Walsh and AB and Council, and then Brazil stepping up and doing some damage too. But this is a game now. Arkansas is guaranteed to play in a ranked team. Whoever wins tonight between Arizona and San Diego State, 2 top 20 teams, Arkansas is now going to get one of those in the third place game. You could come out of this 1-2, which wouldn't be horrible given the level of competition. I know fans don't want to hear that. Arkansas's got a great chance though to come out of it 2-1 and have a quad one win. And for a quad one loss tonight, what a classic. I don't think Arkansas hurt itself in the eyes of anybody in college basketball. In fact, without Nick Smith Jr., I think Arkansas is growing up and learning how to play without a star caliber player who, when we came into this season out of the preseason, he was the one guy we thought was really the only reliable 3-level guy. Now we're seeing Anthony Black, Ricky Council. We saw Trevon Brazile again. This was Brazil's best game against a quality opponent. He did not play well against Texas in the preseason. That was a ranked team, now a top 5 team. He was just disappeared. Louisville is not a quality opponent in terms of win-loss and what that team represents that way, but more size, athleticism than Brazil's gone up against in Europe and other places. Kind of was absent that game. Again, he thawed out in the second half, and maybe this gets him on a run. I think this is very helpful for a lot of the Razorbacks. And I'm going to start reading through some of these comments and questions. I want to get to several of you and make this more interactive. But again, it's Hogvillenet YouTube. We're live. You know, we've been doing this for several months now. If you go to hogville.net, everything's free there. There's no VIP. There's no pay for anything. The content's excellent. Football, basketball, baseball. You don't pay for that, but you're basically 2 clicks away from reading whatever you want in the coverage. But I like these. I want to be more interactive with this because it's the one place we can do that. Time of the game tomorrow, I'm not sure. I've got to look that up. I was so locked in. I know the championship game, I think, is at 4:00 Central Time. That's, I had a hard time writing the losing part of the story that I published right before coming on here. We'll fill in with more details and play-by-play in that, because I thought Arkansas was going to find a way to win. Someone just put, stop making excuses. The Hogs got their butts kicked. Well, Arkansas had a chance to win that game, had multiple leads in the second half. I guess we could say they got their butts kicked because they lost. I don't know about that, guys. Ceiling is definitely Final Four. Absolutely. That's a great comment. I got to roll with that guy. I don't know that Arkansas got its butt kicked, one comment, and then someone else is saying it's a Final Four caliber. I think the latter of that is true. I don't know that Arkansas got its butt kicked. Certainly Arkansas wasn't as good defensively when you look at the field goal percentages. Arkansas had held all opponents coming in under 40% in the mid-30s, sometimes low 30s. 3 of the first opponents in the 20s in three-point shooting. And then you saw Louisville at 33%, 4-12, not a big deal. Obviously, Creighton flipped the script there tonight. From start to finish, this was a very good team shooting the basketball. A lot of the offense, you see guys, you saw Kalkbrenner, because Arkansas got in foul trouble, doing some one-on-one stuff. But most of the one-on-one was downhill and then passing out of that, kicking out, or a guy diving and they hit him. They had a really good screen game with guys either popping out, using multiple screens that confused were meant or designed to confuse defenders and just get them out of their spots just for a moment, because that's all they needed. You saw Shireman knock down a 32-footer. That's a versatile guy. Anthony Black is Arkansas's versatile do-it-all player. Shireman brings that. I thought Nimhard just played a classic, smart game. And, he just was money at the free throw line. I don't know if he missed 1 or 2, but it seemed like he was there all night and made most of them. Kaluma didn't have his best game, but he had his moments. He had a big offensive rebound and putback. It was a real battle under the basket on one of those late plays that helped keep Creighton in the lead and extend the lead, I believe. So, well, I've been saying their starters are among the best in the country. There may not be a better starting five, or if there is, not much better. And that's what I saw tonight. But Arkansas starters were no slouch. And certainly, when I look at Anthony Black and Ricky Council now, these guys, what I've seen so far this season, especially this tournament so far, these are not only all league caliber kind of players, but there's some all American feel and flavor in there. And I don't want to get ahead of myself because it's still very early. You got to be consistently producing, but there's some of that in there, especially Anthony Black with all that he does. He really showed me a lot because him hitting some threes is big. Obviously, we didn't see that, but some of his nuance and some of his drives, he had a baseline drive where he looked one way, went baseline, then just angled himself just enough to get a good finishing angle. A lot of players won't do that. They'll take the hard line, the easiest way, and then they don't have a good finishing angle. So he showed nuance and polish as a finisher, something we just didn't see in the preseason. We're seeing a lot of now. I mean, 20 plus, 26 points tonight. That's back-to-back games knocking that in. 52 points in 2 games after having, 18 and 3? Then he had 6 rebounds, 6 assists. He's had back-to-back games with 6 dimes. 5 dimes before they got to Hawaii in the last game. So he's starting to put together the full package. He had a couple of steals again. Brilliant defender at times. He had some turnovers, but when you're putting up the volume of production that AB is right now, you're going to live with those turnovers. He does so many things to disrupt defensively and then help your team on offense. If Muss develops this team as much moving along as he has his previous teams, that's a scary thought because this team, you see the talent, you see the length, you see the athleticism. And I'm going to be honest, I look at AB and I look at RC and then Trevon Brazile. I needed to see that second half from him. These dudes brought some stones to this fight. They brought the stones. You can decipher that how you want, but they were in for that rock fight and they weren't going to go down to Creighton with that 12-point lead. You might have thought, well, Arkansas's on the ropes here. But they battled back. They had that 6-0 run to get it to halftime down 6. And I thought after that, going into halftime, I felt good for Arkansas. I felt like these are Musselman. This is what Musselman's teams do. They hang around, they find a way, and then all of a sudden you start talking about how maybe they have the advantage. And it looked like they not only they got over the hump to get a lead, but they can never extend it to a 2-possession game lead advantage. That was something I was looking for. Black's worth every star. I saw that comment. Yeah, he's a 5-star. He might be worth more than that. Certainly these first 2 games, we're talking about college basketball, but the reality is this is a projected one and done. A guy first round lottery pick projection, and I see dollar signs with all the activity out there in production because again he's playing a different game than a lot of guys. I know that sounds silly, but he is. There's nuance in some of the stuff that he does. He's big at 6'7". He's athletic. He's gobbling up rebounds. I mean, putback dunks. Some of his passes in transition, the bounce pass to Ricky for that dunk was just a thing of beauty. He threaded the needle on that. And someone's saying he's caught on to the college game quick. Yeah, he really has. You saw Arkansas against the mid-majors just kind of having their way, and he's out there 10 points, 5 points, 6 points, a few assists here, doing a little bit of everything. And now we see when the lights are on against this level of competition, what he's also made of beyond what we'd already seen. And I'm not going to lie. I mean, I've seen the guy play in high school. I saw him play in the FIBA Americas event for Team USA. I've seen him in a lot of basketball, covered the games. I was in Europe, but I covered those games live stream. I did not see this offensive versatility. And now I'm a believer, even though 2 games is still a small sample size. I've seen enough to know that what he's capable of. It doesn't mean he's going to go out and get 20 every night. When Arkansas gets Nick Smith Jr. back, it's going to be very interesting because now these guys have had their growing pains without him and found success without him. And I think if you'd flipped it the other way, and let's say he missed a few games, but had been leading the team and everything and then had to miss a few, they might stumble a little bit. This team is going to get better and better as they play more games. No doubt about it. Arkansas did a lot of great things tonight, dominant in a lot of ways. I talked about it. Points off turnovers, second chance points. They're used to I think they were plus 78 coming into this game in paint points after 4 games. That's incredible. Yet tonight they were even So Creighton did a good job, and a lot of the paint points again. Some of the good stuff they did in transition. I think Kalkbrenner's probably. I'm going to say he's underrated just because he's not a stiff guy. He moves really well. You'll see him set a screen and or roll before he really sets the screen. So he's it's sort of a mirage, and he gets down here really quickly, and then he's good hands and he finishes quickly. Didn't have to, he's not awkward with it. And so you saw him do a lot around the rim. He had a reverse dunk that was pretty nice. Arkansas really played a team that had a loaded starting five, in my opinion. Trey Alexander, who I got to watch in high school multiple times, a really good basketball player. A couple of the Creighton players got in foul trouble. We know Trevon Brazile got in foul trouble. Seems like the whistles, don't want to sound like a homer. I thought maybe the whistles favored Creighton in that second half a little bit. But that's college basketball. That happens sometimes. And what you like to see is the Razorbacks hung in there. They didn't let that be an excuse. Yeah, they lost, but they were right there. I mean, even that last three by Anthony Black is sort of the poster child for what this team is already starting to show in terms of resiliency. Musselman teams have always been resilient, and you saw more than a glimpse of it tonight, but just that final shot that Arkansas had there. I say final shot. Arkansas, obviously got another opportunity that wasn't close, but that happens in basketball. The Hogs are for real. Yeah, they are. I can see it on his face. He wants to fight for his team. I'm not sure who you're talking about there. But if you're talking about Anthony Black or anybody, Ricky Council, again, I go back, he really, AB was carrying the team in the first half, and Ricky hit a few. I think he had 3 buckets in a row. I think they were all pull-up jumpers, tough shots. Stuff I had heard he was really proficient at. We haven't always seen it. We've seen more of the slashing. We've seen some of it sprinkled in, but now we're seeing a more well-rounded game. Let's see. For a young team to hold their own in a slobber knocker like this early in the season, it shows a lot. I agree, and we've been talking about that. Don't know who committed the technical foul. Somebody else asked about that. It's, Arkansas's bench. It could have been Musselman. He was being warned in both games to get back. He's very animated. Maybe it was somebody else on the bench. I'm not going to hang it on Musk because I don't know that. That's probably being addressed in a press conference that I'm not attending. But it may very well be. I think maybe as good as Anthony Black and Ricky Council been in 2 games, I think the biggest sign of a big step tonight, again, I'm going to go back to Trevon Brazile. We saw the double-double average in the first 3 games. Against Louisville, I'm bringing it up again because he was a non-factor like he was at Texas. The Mitchell twins stepped up, though. In a game, Arkansas won by 26, but they combined went to the double-double that Brazile was averaging. They stepped up. Tonight, Brazile found himself again in the second half. I don't think it's too little too late. Maybe for this game, yeah, Arkansas lost it, but I think we're still in November. There's we're 5 games in. There's 26 more regular season games before you even get to postseason, and Arkansas's got a loaded schedule, a lot of chances for quad 1 wins. A lot of those are going to be on the road, and I think, again, playing away from home, you go back to Europe, games away from home. Texas, road game and exhibition play. 3 games in 3 days away from home. I think this helps Arkansas get over any problems it might have with certain things that make them a little bit uncomfortable. Playing away from home can do that. And Arkansas in past in non-conference has loaded up on cupcakes mostly at home. Don't stray away until they have to, and then sometimes it's kind of bitten them. There's been other factors, but I think this is huge for Arkansas to go through these experiences. You want to win a game like this. There's no doubt about it. Two top 10 teams. I talked about the history. You had to go back again to 95 when Nolan Richardson had a mini dynasty. Arkansas was effectually a blue blood in the 90s. Now we're talking about Eric Musselman teams in the same breath when we're talking about Elite Eights and national top 10 finishes 2 seasons in a row and top 5 recruiting classes. And then we get to watch it. We get to watch it on the court. You got a lot of programs that recruit at a high level and don't necessarily play at a high level. You have other programs that find a way to play at a high level, don't necessarily, recruit and hang with the big boys. Arkansas is doing all of that right now. You hate to see a loss like this, but there's a lot more coming this season. And this game gives you a lot of hope. This will be one of the best offensive teams that Arkansas will face. And they're going to learn from it. I really thought Arkansas did better again in the second half, even though Creighton continued to make shots. They didn't get as many shots. There was more turnovers. Arkansas got a little tougher and dug in a little bit more. We may have the best guards in the country. Well, Creighton's guards are pretty good tonight. I think Arkansas's guards are better. I'm going to agree with that. Because we're going to go down the list. Let's look at it defensively. Again, the shooting numbers won't show it. But I look at Devo Davis, Anthony Black, Ricky Council's still a work in progress defensively. Jordan Walsh, we haven't talked about, had some moments in this game. You know, he had a three to start Arkansas. It was the first three in that second half. Got Arkansas started in a good way there. They make 8 in the second half after having a donut in that first half, 0 for 5. Hit 2 big free throws late that tied the game at 81 all, just over a minute left. That was the last tie in the game. He missed a big shot there, but again, these are growing pains for him. He made some big plays on defense. I thought maybe 1 or 2 of his fouls were questionable, but he's in there scrapping with that length and athleticism. Here's a guy that's going to continue to get better. You just wonder how good Arkansas would be right now with Nick Smith Jr. He hasn't played in the regular season. You just wonder, though, where this team is in this event with a healthy Nick Smith Jr., because it changes things. On the flip side of that, what would we have seen from some of the guys that have been really putting up, even an Anthony Black? Maybe this is in some way a blessing in disguise to get other guys to push buttons that maybe they don't get a chance to do with a superstar like Nick Smith Jr. And Anthony Black looks like a superstar also, by the way. There's no doubt about that. Ricky Council's knocking on that door. Which team would you rather play, Arizona or San Diego State? Well, Arizona is another high-powered offensive team. I don't think it's as good defensively as Creighton can be. They've been a good defensive rebounding team. Most of their big-time advantages have been on offense. High-powered score. We saw a high-scoring game tonight. San Diego State. Either one of those teams, I think it's good that Arkansas is playing a highly ranked team. You got 2 top 20 teams you're going to get. Matchup-wise, I may say San Diego State. I think so. But either way, bring them on. I don't think Arkansas is backing down from anybody. I saw that. And, you go back to the Texas game. I want to talk about it. Didn't count. But it did count because whatever happened on that floor that day, I was there, was awful in the second half. And Arkansas could have folded at the end of the first half. That's what happened in Texas. They were down 5, minute to go in the half. Texas goes on a 5-0 run, expands to a 10-point double-digit lead at halftime, and then the wheels fell off in the first few minutes of the second half. Arkansas's down 12 late first half, 6-0 run to cut that lead in half, and then it was just big shot after big shot, heavyweight fight. It's a rock fight. It's a boxing match, whatever you want to say. And you know what? The ESPN commentators, Jay Billis, who's a basketball, he's a basketball snob, but he was impressed with both teams. They were head over heels with what they were watching this early in the season, talking about both teams with deep run capability in March. Here we are in November. And so that's what I saw. And so I think Arkansas can. I think Arkansas can build from this. If they lose, tomorrow, fans are going to, maybe say, well, let's pump the brakes a little bit. But this early in the year, I don't necessarily think that's all that bad. It depends on how they play. But I certainly think Arkansas has got a good a chance, if not a better chance, to come out of it 2-1, because I don't know that 1 through 5, any of the teams in this field outside of Creighton and Arkansas, 1 through 5, can match what those two teams can. Now, Arkansas, people can talk about the depth of talent. They really, really drill it down. So far with Nick out, it's been a top 6. Now, in this event, it's been more Mikal helping with Mackay. We saw a little Jalen Graham at times. We've seen that. We saw Kamani in Europe. But really, it's down to that top 6 with now one of the twins oscillating in there as part of that. Trevon Brazile playing off the bench, he's a starter. That's the way I see that. Let's look at some more of these comments. They're coming in, and I'm doing a poor job, I think. Again, it's Hogvillenet YouTube. We're live. Hogville.net is I've been writing for Hogville.net, covering the Razorback basketball, covering recruiting for years now. Everything's free. Most of the sites, most of our competitors, you pay for that. Our content's free. If you look at the work that Otis Kirk, Dudley Dawson do, football, baseball, and now really expanding to other sports, everybody's, giving a full menu of coverage, I'll put it that way, at Hogville.net right now, and it doesn't cost you anything. So it's a great place to go get your content. Are we the best team in the SEC? Well, Arkansas is the highest ranked team in the SEC. Kentucky had 2 losses, fell out of the top 10. Arkansas is at number 9. It's the highest ranked team. I think it's a little too early to say Arkansas is the best team in the SEC, but if you're a Hog fan, you can stick your chest out and say it because they are ranked higher than anybody right now. I don't know how far Arkansas will fall. If you beat a ranked team on Wednesday, I'm not so sure that there's not a path for Arkansas to move up in the next poll. Maybe not fall very much because of the quality of this game and the fight Arkansas gave. And you look at Creighton. This is a team that, again, I'm not sure how many starting fives out there are any better. As a Hog fan, you should always say there's not a team out there you'd take their top 5 over the Razorbacks. I get that, especially. Then this is a really good Arkansas team. It's going to be a really good Arkansas team. The big difference here tonight, to me, in the little moments, is Creighton capitalized, and a lot of that might have had to do with the experience of this team. A lot of experienced players. I haven't talked about that. I think with the Hogs, the youth showed up in some places enough, and in a game like this, that can be just enough. I thought maybe free throw shooting would be a problem for Arkansas. The Hogs were 4 of 6 in the first half, and they were much better in the second half. 9 of 11, so over 80%. That's what you've got to do in a close game. But the wrong team was shooting free throws at the end to ice it. Arkansas was just behind and had to foul. If the script was flipped, it'd be interesting to see how Arkansas handled that. But Arkansas made its free throws when the opportunities came up late in the game to stay in the game, and I thought that was really important. I know Anthony Black missed a 3-point and 1 opportunity. Jordan Walls hit 2 big ones. Ricky Council made free throws. I never expected AB to score as much in these 2 games. No doubt about it. If you told me AB's got 56 points, I'm like, what are we, 8, 9 games into the season? That's not a knock on him. It's just the way that is, the MO that this guy has shown us. Even in high school, as good as he was on that Duncanville team, he was more of a facilitator. He could score. Not quite like this, though, consistently. It's 2 games. We don't need to necessarily call that a consistent proof of anything. It's still a small sample size, but man, it's not like he didn't find a variety of ways to score the basketball. The only thing missing is really a pull-up mid-range shot. We haven't seen that, but he had some floaters. He had some double clutch, getting off the glass, little runners, getting all the way for putback dunks, knocking down threes. I think now he's hit a 3 in at least 4 consecutive games, but the last 2 games hitting multiple threes, and you're not, now all of a sudden you don't feel uncomfortable with him taking those. And I think that's huge growth when you could say that this early in the year after what we thought we knew. All right, Creighton shot lights out first half. That really hurt. Disappointed for the guys. What a learning experience, no doubt. Woo Pig, good game. And I think now, this is going to be this is one of those games you want to keep talking about if you win it. Tomorrow's another day with a new game. Usually you don't have back-to-back-to-back games. You get a few days to think about it, talk about it, and then move on. Arkansas is going to move on quickly. And I think for the fan base, what a way to finish up Maui would be to pick up a win against a ranked team, come back 2-1. That's the best you can do, but it's still great. And you got nothing to be ashamed of in that loss. I don't want to sound like a Pollyannish homer talking about a loss being a moral victory. But this wasn't, Arkansas didn't lose to an inferior opponent. These were 2 teams that were pretty, in my opinion, pretty even for different reasons. And at the end of the day, that game looked like that. It came down to maybe a coin toss. This team is young and athletic, but still undisciplined. Well, Arkansas took care of the basketball for the most part. Really did a much better job than Creighton did. They forced more turnovers, and Arkansas thought did a good job tonight taking care of the basketball. Not so much against Louisville, not so much in the previous game. Pretty good in the first 2 games. So 3 out of 5, I think Arkansas's been decisively better taking care of the basketball. That goes a lot toward the discipline. If we want to talk about fouls, maybe, but you know what? I think a lot of those whistles were a little questionable. Again, that might seem homer, but that was my feeling on some of it. Not all of it, some of it. But some of that also is inexperience and being young. And so I don't know if it's undisciplined, if it has to do with being undisciplined as much as it does having to do with being young. Do you think Musman should control his and his assistants' emotions with to keep his young team focused. Well, that's a valid point. This is who Musselman is. It's what he brings to the table. When you factor in everything that he does right, if that's one of the main hangups, then maybe that's something he needs to look at. But if I'm an Arkansas fan, I'm going to take that 10 times out of 10 with everything else that Eric Musselman brings to the table. I thought Arkansas made good adjustments in this game, especially in the second half, to make the Blue Jays a little more uncomfortable. Yeah, they still made shots, but they started getting turnovers, and I thought Arkansas got into them a little bit, just enough to get them a little unsettled. And I thought that was players and coaching. And I also think when you looked at Arkansas, Musselman does a masterful job of getting the ball in the right guy's hands, especially late game situations. It wasn't just Anthony Black. You saw Ricky Council. They played through him. They used him as a setup guy. When you've got two guys that are 20-plus scorers, you put the ball in their hands, you let them work in two-man game. You saw both players dish the ball back out. And now a guy like Trevon Brazile gets hot because he's wide open because the defense is so worried about the other guys. And so a lot of that's just designed by Musselman, getting his players in playmaking situations where they can either finish or find someone else who can. And we know Nick Smith Jr., that's the one thing we know about him, is he's a playmaker for himself and for others. And now there's two more. I wasn't sure there was going to be more than one. Now I'm convinced that Arkansas can have three of those. And you get Nick Smith Jr. back, there may be some adjusting that has to happen there. It's not like you just add him and now all of a sudden you beat everybody. Everybody's got to settle in and adjust. Roles will change a little bit for everybody. But I think it's going to benefit Arkansas. And I think Arkansas just has one more weapon. And we'll see how good they are defensively moving forward, because I think a game like this gets their attention because they did so many things well. But overall, the field goal shooting, the three-point field goal shooting, some of that you just got to credit Creighton. Some of that Arkansas was a little slow to close out, a little poor positioning at times, and Creighton's too good to do that. And so they'll learn from that. There's value in this loss. Aside from it being a quality loss and it was an exciting game, there are learning points, and Eric Musselman always squeezes the max out of those. He doesn't miss anything. In fact, I think he may be the best in college basketball in game planning, in-game adjustments, and then learning from mistakes. It doesn't mean they're not going to make more mistakes and fall down some more at some point. They're not perfect, but they're going to get better because of this game. I don't know how much better they'll be in less than 24 hours when they play again on Wednesday against a ranked opponent, but this will be part of their growth process. Hogs went for fakes and have to be more disciplined. Okay, there's some truth to that. Again, I think some of that with Arkansas, they've got so much length, size, and athleticism. Musselman really wants them to be high hands, active hands, and he wants them to close. He wants hands and faces when guys shoot. So sometimes with that as part of your marching orders, you might leave your feet if you think a guy, especially a team that's really good like Creighton with shooters, that you need to make sure you're challenging. And then they're crafty, and so you pay for that. But the idea was with all this added size, length, and athleticism that you might get help on the backside if someone beats you. So that, there's give and take there. But I agree. I think Arkansas did bite for several ball fakes, but you've got to give Creighton credit for that too. This is a very skilled college basketball team. You don't see a lot of college teams with five guys that play as well offensively and seem connected. And this is where, again, Arkansas learns from that. I think it can benefit Arkansas even offensively, watching some of the things Creighton did and going through this experience. Teams like Creighton have to make threes. They shoot 70% from three land, seem like anyway. Well, they did. They shot really well, but you know what? They didn't get as many threes in the second half. They were 5 of 10. I think they were 2 of 4 down the stretch. I think they were 2 of 4 in the second half. So down the stretch, they were 7 of 14. I talked about Arkansas forcing more turnovers. They also limited Creighton, did a better job of keeping them off the three line. The problem was Creighton, if you run them off the three line, their guards are skilled. They pick and choose off drives. It's not just Nembhard. It's Trey Alexander, Shireman setting guys up off his dribble or backing a guy down and hitting those spinning fadeaways. There was just so much skill on that team. It's really hard to completely knock Arkansas across the board based on that 90 points because, again, Arkansas did a lot of good things to be in that game. Creighton was a good defensive team too. No one talks about that. That's a good defensive team. Not a great one, but a good one. And Arkansas hangs 87. Kevin won't say it, but I will. We played the refs tonight. 28 free throws in one half. Come on. Well, they only shot one in the first half. Maybe the refs felt like Creighton deserved to, you know, 27 more or 28 more later. Um, I did say it though. I didn't talk specifically about all those free throws, but I did say I felt like Creighton got the benefit of the whistles, and I thought there were some questionable ones. Not one, several that were questionable. I thought it was a physical game. I thought sometimes when Arkansas went to the basket, maybe there was some contact that could have been called, and it's going the other way. And I thought sometimes when there was contact that didn't have to be called on the other end, there was a whistle. So, was I wearing Homer glasses? I don't think so. I would agree with that comment that Arkansas was not the benefit of on some of the calls that maybe they should have been. Will Arkansas drop in the polls, or do they gain some respect? I think both. I think they gain some respect. If you lose tomorrow, you're going to drop in the polls. If you win, maybe not. So I think both answers could be correct based on tomorrow's outcome. So it's not going to be based on just today. Certainly, it's not going to be based on blowing out Louisville, because Texas Tech proved they could do it too. Louisville's not very good, still winless. Arkansas is a top 10 team. I agree. I wasn't sure about that, especially with Nick out. Now I feel pretty strongly right now that that's a valid ranking. Last year, I say it all the time, started 8-0. They started in top 16, moved up to 10th after those 8 wins. I never felt like that team was connected. I thought they were awkward at both ends, and it caught up to him. Then must tweak rotations. The defense got better. It always starts for him on that end, and everything else falls into place. And then when they were out of the polls and climbing in, and they couldn't get higher than 17th, and they were winning all those games, I'm like, this looks like a top 10 team, but now it's not ranked in the top 10. And then it finishes in the Elite Eight and prove what I felt at that point, that they were a top 10 team. So that happens in sports, happens in basketball. But right now, eye test tells me everything's equal, everything's kind of lining up. Arkansas is ranked in the top 10. They look like a top 10 team. They played a top 10 team that everybody agrees maybe has one of the top 5 starting lineups in the country. And Arkansas was right there and had a chance to win that game. Arkansas's best players on the bench. Who's that? I missed that. Did they give an answer to that? I saw as Arkansas's best player on the bench. I'm not sure who you're talking about there. I thought the best players played for Arkansas tonight. For the most part. I mean, you might have guys that later prove that wrong. We know Musman likes to tweak his rotations at some point. I don't know how much that will be. If you're saying Arkansas's best player was on the bench and you're talking about Nick Smith Jr., that's an obvious thing to say, because that's what all the preseason accolades say, and it's, but you got to clarify a little bit for me to help me out with that. Let's see. That may be an obvious point you were making. Closing lineup once Nick Smith gets back. Well, he's in it. And we got to really see. It depends on matchups again. I think you could see 2 bigs in the lineup, a Trevon Brazile and one of the Mitchells maybe. Maybe it's somebody else on the front line in there. Trevon's got to be more consistent. If he wants to be on the floor at end of games, he's got to do what he did more consistently. At least he came alive in the second half against a quality opponent, and he was in that fight. At that point, he's in the fight. You got Trevon Brazile on your side now. Think of it like a tug of war. The guy's not helping, now he is. Or, tag team wrestling. If he tags in, he better do something, right? And I thought Trevon Brazile did that. So closing games, Nick Smith, you better bet Nick's going to be on the court. That's happening. Anthony Black, Ricky Council, these guys, to me, those are givens. Guys like Jordan Walsh, Devo Davis, Trevon Brazile, they're definitely square in that conversation. Maybe one of the Mitchell twins. Again, I think it comes down to matchups. Do you go size? Do you go with a smaller ball lineup with one big? Is Trevon, if Trevon's shown you by that point that he can be relied upon to hold his own defensively, get on the glass, and play a stronger brand of basketball than he showed in the first half and that he showed in Texas, this may be a huge leap for him tonight. Small sample size. We don't know that yet. Let's keep going. I see comments come and go on this. I'm still learning how to do it. Once again, it's Hogvillenet, YouTube Live, Hogville.net. It's where I've spent most of my sports writing career now, covering Razorback basketball and recruiting. We've got other writers, Otis Kirk, Dudley Dawson, do a fantastic job with football, baseball, other sports, and it's always free. That's important. I hope you go check out our content. And even my flabby, flimsy game story to this point, because once I get off here, I'm going to go fill in with details. There's a lot to put in there. Do we play tomorrow? Yes, Arkansas plays tomorrow. If someone knows the time, if you'll scroll it here for me, someone may already have. I'll be able to say what that is. I didn't look up the game time for the third place game. I'm pissed. Creighton's good, but really, I'm just reading somebody's comment. I'm not using that language. I use the language, but it's not mine for me. Yeah, I mean, fair to say, people don't take losses well. Fans don't take losses well. Moral victories. I think in November though, and this is, it's feast week. You're in Maui. This, how much did Arkansas? What ground did they really lose? They lost a game. If Arkansas goes through all of its quad one opportunities and loses them all, then you're going to be looking at this one and going, well, that's one we should have got maybe. Okay, hindsight, 2020. We're so far away from that. And I dare to guess this team's going to win a lot of big games this year. There's a smile on my face because honestly, I've been around a long time, folks. I've been around for the Nolan days, the Eddie days. I've seen great players come to this program. I've seen guys go on to the NBA and be stars. I've seen the best of Arkansas basketball. And right now, this collection of players, putting a lot of pressure on it, I guess, and putting it out there, this collection of players is as talented as a group as I've seen. That's a huge statement. Anybody that was around in the 80s and 90s know that's a huge statement. Don't have to agree with me, but that's what I see. I've been saying it forever when they recruited this class, but because I saw Musman pushing certain buttons. This is Final Four caliber stuff. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. A lot goes into a season. We already know with injuries and situations, Arkansas is already a little bit shorthanded. We know that luck. We know a lot of things. Things happen in a bit caliber on paper. And then I saw it jump off the paper tonight against a really good team. I saw enough to know that what I thought, and what I think, there's something backing it up. There's some proof of concept. Yeah, Arkansas didn't win, but those are the kind of games you're going to be in the NCAA tournament, especially the deeper you go. Creighton's the kind of team you might see in a Sweet 16 or an Elite 8, maybe the Final Four. And so, you never know. Down the road, you might see these guys again. But again, I think Arkansas shouldn't be disappointed. Yeah, they lost. They got to go take care of business tomorrow, whether that's Arizona, San Diego State. Then that's what it is. All right, I'm starting to get a lag here. I think my battery's running down. It's probably going to cut out. I'm going to sign off. It's Hogvillenet, YouTube Live. Go to hogville.net. Check out the football, basketball, and baseball coverage. Second to none. That's what I think. And I also want to thank my sponsor, Parkway Automotive. They do great work here in Central Arkansas, based out of Little Rock. They do all my car work, repairing, service work I have for me and my family. I don't just shill for anybody. These guys have been great to me. So check them out if you're in Central Arkansas. Great job, guys. Thank you.